Joining us tonight is Ryan Mauro, national security analyst for the Clarion Project, dedicated to exposing the dangers of Islamic extremism in this country. Great to have you here, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
These two decided they were going to go into an event, a free speech event designed specifically to be provocative, certainly by a contest the Prophet Mohammed. But you say that it wasn't about the Islamic State.
Not really, because you can be a supporter of the Islamic State, but how you get there? We know that the first individual that was ID'd was being monitored by the FBI. He was even convicted for lying to the FBI
about going
to Somalia to, they believe, join an al-Qaeda group.
Right.
And so all the way back to the fall of 2006, when the FBI was deploying informants, including one that was a Muslim, to go and try and find out what this guy was up to because he was radical. And that was before anyone was even talking about this event. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the beliefs that lead someone to join ISIS and engage in these types of attacks?
You know, that is an interesting view. And understand your enemy. I'm going to be very candid with you. I've heard that nonsense from people talking about Afghanistan and Iraq, the North Africa, throughout the Middle East. The reality in this country, the issue is that we believe in free constitutional right. We have every right, or insulting as would we not be, our motive to do so.
Sure, and I agree with you, but we have to zero in on is also the ideology that causes these types of things.
I get that. We've heard that. We've heard there's an ideological basis for the Islamic State to behead Christians on a beach. You know, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. In this instance, frankly, I don't give a damn. The reality is they're barbaric. They are murdering people and trying, in this instance, to murder.
Right. Well, you're doing a good job of describing them, but until you understand what the themes are, then you can't counter them and pick the correct Muslim allies in order to refute that. And the problem we have is that this isn't...
See, that sounds like political correct nonsense to me. You're trying to play it both ways, and I understand the motivation.
Well, what are both ways?
The reality is that you're dealing with somebody who tried to kill people. They were shot down in Garland, Texas. Right. And beyond that, what do you need to know? What would you have done?
I want to know why.
Oh, you do?
Right? And we know why, because, again, when you look at the documents...
Well, wait a minute.
Yes.
Amongst the people there were Gert Wilders, a Dutch anti-radical Islamist expert. He understands radical Islam very well. The victims throughout Europe of radical Islam are documented. We understand why. Sharia law. The issues of blasphemy. Other religions are against blasphemy as well. That does not give them any particular right, nor does it seem to me to give us any great particular advantage when people decide to kill one of our citizens or a number of our citizens. What difference could it possibly make to go into an intellectual cul-de-sac to discuss Sharia law? Because the reality is we have a constitution, we have law, and by God, it's going to be enforced. And
I know, and you're repeating the same point, which I agree with you on, but we'll talk about the radicalization process and how those views are adopted and what leads up to it.
Now you've said something different. Now you've said something different.
No, I haven't. I've been consistent throughout the whole thing. I want to talk about the ideology and how to refute.
Well, if you want to debate me, that's fine, but the reality is this. You just mentioned the words radical Islamist radicalization.
Sure.
Now, that process is interesting.
Right.
But these happen to be Somalis, once again, okay? Mm-hmm. And what is the understanding of that? What do you understand about the process of radicalization from the Somali population in this country?
Well, obviously there's a problem coming from that specific community, but this is a problem that goes beyond just that community, and that's why I brought this book to illustrate the problem.
Sure. Let's take a look at the book.
This is an authoritative manual of Sharia law, and so when people say, oh, well, ICE people are just viewing online propaganda, and then they adopt the view, you've got to let me finish the sentence.
No, I will let you finish, but I'm going to interject. I haven't said that the Islamic State had anything to do with this attack. You're talking about somebody else's broadcast or view of the world. I didn't say that the Islamic State had anything to do with this event.
No, what I'm trying to do is give my analysis, which you keep interrupting on. I'm saying what leads them...
That is my prerogative.
Right, of course it is. But I'm asking, what is the mindset that leads someone to join ISIS? Because these individuals were radicalized years before that. And that's the process you need to interrupt. You can't just focus on the individuals once they're getting the weapon. Let me finish. This book,
actually, Ryan,
which has the foundation...
I think the third time you've said that.
not letting me get a sentence out.
You continue with sentences that are irrelevant to the questions I'm asking.
Give me your question.
That's very gracious of you. I don't know what case you appear on, but typically on this broadcast, we ask that our guests answer the questions of the host. So let's try this again. What is there unique to the Somalis in this country that is susceptible to radicalization?
There is a higher than average rate of radicalization. A lot of that has to do with a lack of integration is the general consensus, is that they are taking themselves out of the society, and then once you're in that bubble is when radicalism, like through books like the one that I just shown, can gain a lot of ground because there's a natural conflict that comes between the freedoms which you've been saying are so important, I agree with you, and radical Islam.
That's awfully good of you to agree with me on our rights.
I've been agreeing with you the whole time.
So, except about the role of host and guest. But let me further this one
I don't mean to be rude, but okay.
That's okay. That is acceptable. The fact of the matter is that we have two people dead, who from all accounts deserve to be very dead. And we have two people who traveled from Phoenix. We know nothing about them, really, very little at most. And the truth is that we owe a great debt of thanks to the people, the officers, the law enforcement agencies of Garland, Texas, for protecting their citizens. And I hope that that's an example for everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Ryan, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Tragedy in New York.